What happens when a Hollywood legend sits down for what should be a simple morning interview and instead faces an interrogation that crosses every line? In just 40 seconds of on-air chaos, one of the most respected hosts in morning television would destroy her own reputation with a single question so offensive, so unbelievably disrespectful, that it would end with security escorting a beloved icon off the set. This is the story of how Savannah Guthrie turned a routine celebrity interview into the most shocking moment in Today Show history. The morning started like any other. The studio lights were bright, the audience was settled in their seats, and the energy was high. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director, was scheduled to appear on the show to discuss his latest film project. It was supposed to be easy, light, promotional. Just another day of celebrity interviews and morning coffee. Savannah Guthrie sat at the desk, shuffling her notes. Next to her were Hoda Kotb and Craig Melvin, both smiling and ready for what they assumed would be a pleasant conversation with a Hollywood icon. The cameras rolled, the red lights blinked on, and Savannah turned to face Clint with her signature smile. "We are so thrilled to have you here," Savannah began, her voice syrupy sweet. Clint Eastwood, everyone. An absolute legend. The audience applauded. Clint nodded politely, his weathered face calm and composed. He had done 1,000 interviews in his lifetime. This was nothing new. "Thank you for having me," Clint said simply. "So, your new film," Savannah continued, glancing at her notes. "Tell us about it. What can audiences expect?" Clint leaned forward slightly. "Well, it's a story about resilience, about ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. I think it's something people will connect with." Hoda jumped in with enthusiasm. "That sounds wonderful. You've always had such a gift for telling these powerful human stories." "I appreciate that," Clint replied. Craig nodded along. "And you're directing again, which we love to see. How does it feel to be behind the camera at this stage of your career?" "It feels right," Clint said. "I love the process. Every film teaches you something new." Everything was going smoothly. The conversation flowed naturally. The audience was engaged, but then Savannah shifted in her seat, and something changed in her expression. Her smile became tighter, more forced. "You know, where Clint," Savannah said, her tone shifting just slightly. "I have to ask. There's been a lot of conversation lately about older directors, older actors, and whether there's still a place for them in modern Hollywood." The studio went quiet. Hoda's eyes widened. Craig glanced at Savannah with visible confusion. Clint's expression didn't change, but there was a pause. "I'm sorry, what are you asking exactly?" Savannah pressed on. "I mean, do you ever feel like maybe it's time to step aside? Make room for younger voices? Fresh perspectives?" The audience shifted uncomfortably. You could hear people whispering, unsure if they had heard correctly. Hoda tried to intervene. "Savannah, I don't think that's..." But Savannah held up a hand, cutting her off. "No, I think it's a valid question. Clint, you're 80 plus years old. Do you really think you're still connecting with audiences the way you used to?" Clint sat back in his chair, studying her carefully. His jaw tightened, just barely. "I think my work speaks for itself." "Does it, though?" Savannah challenged, leaning forward. "I mean, let's be honest. The world has changed. Maybe your time has passed." Craig shifted uncomfortably. "Savannah, come on. That's not fair." "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking," Savannah shot back, her voice rising slightly. "We celebrate these legacy actors, but at what point do we admit they're holding the industry back?" The audience gasped. Several people shook their heads in disbelief. Clint's eyes narrowed. "Holding the industry back? I've been making films for over 6 decades. I've employed thousands of people, told countless stories, and contributed more to this industry than you could possibly understand. But that's the past," Savannah said dismissively. "What about now? What do you offer now?" Hoda put her hand on Savannah's arm. Okay, I think we need to move on to another topic. Savannah pulled her arm away. No, I want to hear his answer. Clint's voice remained steady, but there was an edge to it now. What I offer is experience, craftsmanship, and a dedication to storytelling that doesn't come from age discrimination. Age discrimination? Savannah laughed, actually laughed. Oh, please. You're not a victim here. I never said I was, Clint replied coolly. But you seem determined to make me into something I'm not. Craig tried again. Maybe we should talk about the film itself, the cast, the locations. Savannah ignored him completely. You know what I think? I think you can't handle criticism. I think you've been coddled for so long that any real question feels like an attack. The audience was silent now, stunned by what they were witnessing. Clint stood up slowly, deliberately. Real questions are fine. Disrespect disguised as journalism is something else entirely. Oh, here we go, Savannah said, rolling her eyes. The big dramatic exit. Very Hollywood of you. Hoda stood up too. Savannah, stop. This is completely inappropriate. Stay out of this, Hoda, Savannah snapped. Clint began removing his microphone. His movements were calm, controlled, but his face showed clear disappointment. You're really going to walk off? Savannah taunted. Can't handle a tough interview? This isn't a tough interview, Clint said quietly. This is you trying to create a moment at my expense, and I won't participate in it. Craig stood up, holding his hands out. Clint, please, we're sorry. This got out of hand. Don't apologize for me, Savannah interjected. I'm not sorry. Someone needed to ask these questions. Clint set his microphone on the desk. No, someone needed to show basic respect. You failed at that. The audience began murmuring loudly now. Some people were standing, clearly upset by what they were seeing. Savannah's face flushed red. You think you're better than everyone, don't you? You think because you're Clint Eastwood, you can just walk away when things get uncomfortable? I think I deserve the same courtesy any guest would deserve, Clint replied. Apparently, that's too much to ask. Hoda moved around the desk. Clint, please don't leave like this. She doesn't speak for all of us. I know that, Clint said gently to Hoda. You and Craig have been nothing but professional. Savannah stood up now, her voice getting louder. So that's it? You're just going to run away? I'm not running, Clint said, turning to face her fully. I'm choosing not to engage with someone who clearly has no interest in a real conversation. Because you can't defend yourself, Savannah pushed. Because you know I'm right. Clint shook his head slowly. You're not right. You're just rude. The words hung in the air. Simple, direct, devastating. Savannah's mouth opened and closed. How dare you? How dare I what? Clint asked. Tell the truth? You invited me here under false pretenses. You ambushed me with insults disguised as questions. And now you're upset that I won't play along. Craig stepped between them. Okay, everyone just take a breath. Let's calm down. I am calm, Clint said. I'm also leaving. He started walking toward the exit. Savannah called after him. This is going to make you look terrible. You know that, right? Clint paused but didn't turn around. I'll take my chances. You're making a huge mistake, Savannah continued. Walking off a live show like this, it's career suicide. Now, Clint did turn around, and his expression was one of complete composure. My career will be just fine. I'm more worried about yours. The audience erupted. Some people clapped. Others gasped. Everyone was talking at once. Hoda covered her face with her hands. Craig looked at Savannah with complete disbelief. Savannah's face was bright red now. Get back here. We're not done. Yes, Clint said firmly. We are. He continued walking. A producer rushed onto the set, looking panicked, trying to figure out what to do. Savannah turned to the camera. Well, there you have it, folks. Clint Eastwood, unable to handle a real conversation. Hoda grabbed Savannah's arm. Stop talking. Right now. Don't tell me what to do, Savannah hissed. You just humiliated a guest on live television, Hoda said, her voice shaking. What were you thinking? I was thinking someone needs to hold these people accountable, Savannah replied. Craig shook his head. Accountable for what? For being successful? For having a long career? For agreeing to come on our show? You wouldn't understand, Savannah muttered. You're right. I don't understand, Craig said. Saw him because what you just did was indefensible. The producer was now talking frantically into his headset. The cameras were still rolling. The audience was in complete chaos. Clint had reached the edge of the studio. A security guard approached him, not to stop him, but to make sure he was okay. I'm fine, Clint told the guard. Just disappointed. Savannah yelled across the studio. Disappointed? You should be embarrassed. Hoda whirled on her. Savannah, enough. Stop making this worse. It can't get worse, Craig added. You've already destroyed this interview. I was doing my job, Savannah insisted. Your job is to interview guests, not attack them, Hoda shot back. The audience was standing now, many of them shouting. Some were defending Clint. Others were yelling at Savannah. The energy in the room was electric and angry. Clint spoke to the security guard. I'd like to leave now, if that's possible. Of course, sir, the guard said respectfully. Right this way. Savannah saw them heading for the door. That's right. Run away. That's what you're good at. Clint stopped one final time. He looked at Savannah, really looked at her, and when he spoke, his voice carried across the entire studio. I've faced down some of the toughest situations in my life. I've worked with difficult people, dealt with real challenges, overcome actual obstacles. But I've never, in all my years, encountered someone so determined to create conflict where none existed. You had a chance to have a meaningful conversation. Instead, you chose cruelty. That's on you, not me. The audience erupted in applause. Loud, sustained, supportive applause. Savannah's face went from red to pale. She looked around the studio, seeming to realize for the first time that everyone was against her. You're all taking his side? She asked, her voice cracking. There are no sides, Hoda said quietly. There's just right and wrong, and what you did was wrong. Craig nodded. Completely wrong. The producer rushed over to Savannah. We need to go to commercial. Now. No, Savannah said. I want to finish this. There's nothing to finish, the producer said firmly. You've done enough damage. Clint was at the door now. The security guard held it open for him. Savannah made one last desperate attempt. If you leave, you'll prove me right. You'll prove that you can't handle criticism. Clint paused in the doorway. The only thing I'm proving is that I know when a conversation has no value. On goodbye, Savannah. And with that, he walked out. The door closed behind him. The studio fell into a strange, heavy silence. Savannah stood at the desk, her chest heaving, her eyes wild. She looked at Hoda and Craig, but they both avoided her gaze. The audience was still standing, still buzzing with energy and anger. Why is everyone acting like I'm the villain here? Savannah asked, her voice high and strained. Because you are, someone from the audience shouted. Other voices joined in. That was disgraceful. How could you treat him like that? You should apologize. Savannah looked at the cameras, at the red lights still blinking, still broadcasting every moment of this disaster. The producer rushed over again. Savannah, we're cutting to commercial in 5 seconds. Do not say another word. But Savannah started. Not another word, the producer repeated. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The studio lights dimmed slightly as they cut away, but the damage was done. Hoda sat down heavily in her chair. I can't believe that just happened. Craig ran his hands over his face. That was the worst interview I've ever been part of. Savannah stood alone at the desk, her notes scattered in front of her, her reputation crumbling around her. In the hallway outside the studio, Clint Eastwood walked with quiet dignity toward the exit. Staff members watched him pass, many of them looking sympathetic, some even apologizing. "You don't need to apologize," Clint told them. "You didn't do anything wrong." One young production assistant approached nervously. "Mr. Eastwood, I just want to say I'm a huge fan. And what happened in there was completely unfair." Clint smiled slightly. "I appreciate that." "Will you ever come back?" the assistant asked. Clint considered the question. "That depends on whether they want me back for the right reasons." He continued down the hallway, his footsteps echoing off the walls. Back in the studio, the commercial break was ending. The producer was giving Hoda and Craig frantic instructions. "Just do a quick recap of the other segments. Don't mention Clint. Don't address what happened. We'll figure out damage control later." Hoda looked ill. "How can we not address it? It was live television. Everyone saw it." "We'll release a statement," the producer said. "But right now, we need to finish the show professionally." Craig nodded. "What about Savannah?" The producer glanced at her. And she was sitting at the desk now, staring at nothing, her face blank. "She'll sit there and stay quiet," the producer said, "or she'll be removed. Her choice." The countdown started again. They were about to go live. Hoda took a deep breath. Craig straightened his tie. Savannah didn't move. The lights came up. "Welcome back," Hoda said, her voice strained but professional. "We have some great cooking segments coming up next." Craig jumped in smoothly. "And later, we'll be talking about the latest trends in home organization." They moved through the rest of the show mechanically, professionally, but the energy was gone. The audience sat quietly, subdued by what they had witnessed. Savannah remained at the desk, but she didn't speak again for the rest of the broadcast. When the show finally ended, when the cameras stopped rolling and the lights dimmed, the studio emptied quickly. Staff members whispered in corners. Executives made phone calls. Social media was already exploding with clips and reactions. But through it all, one image remained clear in everyone's mind. Clint Eastwood, walking away with his head held high, refusing to be diminished by someone who had forgotten the basic principles of respect and professionalism. Savannah had wanted to create a moment, and she had, just not the one she intended. The interview that was supposed to be routine, promotional, easy, had instead become a masterclass in how quickly things can fall apart when ego overtakes empathy. Hoda and Craig left the studio together, both looking exhausted. "That was horrible," Hoda said. "I've never seen anything like it," Craig agreed. "Do you think she planned it?" Hoda asked. Craig shook his head. "I don't know, but planned or not, it was wrong." They walked in silence for a moment. "He handled it perfectly, though," Hoda said. Clint, I mean. He stayed calm. He stated his position, and he left with dignity. "He did," Craig agreed, which is more than can be said for anyone else involved. In her dressing room, Savannah sat alone, still in her show clothes, staring at her phone as notifications poured in. Messages, emails, tweets, all of them harsh, all of them critical. She had thought she was being bold, challenging, unafraid to ask the tough questions. Instead, she had revealed something uglier. A need to tear down rather than build up. A desire to create conflict rather than conversation. And America had watched it all happen in real time. Somewhere across town, Clint Eastwood sat in the back of a car, heading home. He looked out the window at the city passing by, his expression thoughtful but peaceful. He had been interviewed thousands of times. He had faced skeptical journalists, tough questions, challenging conversations, but he had never encountered such naked hostility disguised as journalism. Still, he felt no anger, just disappointment. Disappointment that someone had chosen aggression over curiosity, conflict over connection. The car drove on. The city continued its busy rhythm. And the story of what happened on the Today Show that morning spread like wildfire across every platform, every network, every conversation. Not because a celebrity walked off a show, but because America had witnessed a fundamental breakdown in civility, respect, and professionalism. And they had seen clearly who was in the wrong. The heated exchange lasted less than 10 minutes, but its impact would last much, much longer. Because some moments, once they happen, can never be taken back. Some words, once spoken, can never be unheard. And some reputations, once damaged, can never be fully restored. Savannah Guthrie had learned that lesson the hard way. And Clint Eastwood had reminded everyone watching what real dignity looks like, even in the face of disrespect. The cameras had captured it all. The audience had witnessed it live. And now the world would judge for themselves who had been right and who had been wrong. But deep down, everyone already knew the answer.